Sometimes when you're thinking about why you do something, it's easy to understand the first layer of abstraction usually is directly causal related. So you can see that I want to do something because I feel the desire to do it. What becomes harder to understand is why you feel the desire. A lot of the time we can look back and we can say, well, there was an advantage to your biology wanting you to do something at one particular time, so it incentivized you to do it, with the desire and the reward after it was completed. This inevitably alienates us from what it is that actually is the desired effect. So we understand what we've done made us feel good, and we wanted that feeling, but we don't know why perhaps that was the thing that resulted in us feeling good. So I'm watching PewDiePie talk about another YouTuber, a YouTuber who seemed to adjust his style in response to an incentive change that happened, according to the video, around 2016. Now, he describes the incentive change as being before views were prioritized, and then afterwards watch time became more important. So heavy views on low watch time videos were less monetizable, but mediocre views on a longer runtime video would be more lucrative for the creators, so that would push them into creating more of that. There's a very clear cause and effect relation going on here, and we can identify with the creators as to why they're deciding to act in this way, the behavior that they're exhibiting. However, that still doesn't answer the question, why is longer runtime being incentivized? And you can relate this back to the way that we behave normally with biological imperatives and biological desires. We can understand that we want something, and we can even see the cause and effect between the thing that happens and how we feel, and why that's positive for us and then why we would want it. But that doesn't explain the root cause of what's going on. Why is it that this thing is preferred over something else? Why is it the reward system is geared in such a way to reward this and not something else? And I think that's an interesting question we can look at here, because both YouTubers seem to be talking in abstractions about the policy change and haven't really offered any compelling arguments as to why the policy change happened, only that it affected them and they had to adjust their behavior in regards to it. For me, strongly, I want to understand why I behave the way I do and how I can change my behavior. And understanding exactly the principles that are being discussed here, the mechanism is essentially the same for trying to adapt my own behavior. The question remains, on both sides, what is the underlying imperative that has adjusted the motivations and incentives to change our behavior? In terms of YouTube, how would we answer that? How would we find out why longer runtimes? Because all that ended up happening was the creators changed their behavior to adapt to the changing conditions and then seemed to benefit from the revenue. So their behavior was changed, but there was never an incentive to find out why the behavior was changed, only to adapt to the change in environment. So why did YouTube change the environment in that way? Why did they adjust the incentives? What was it for? I mean, the great part of this is, obviously, is that having so many creators on board, you could find so many different ways of adapting. They could all trial and error different things to try to get the new format of the long form to work for them, and then once the solutions were found, they could proliferate across the system. So it was a very efficient method for finding solutions. It was a kind of natural selection. There obviously were going to be some creators that didn't get the right formula for transforming into the long format and fell by the wayside. And that's exactly what this video is talking about. Is there's this one creator who found that he wasn't adapting, he couldn't find the solution, and then he sprung on something that actually we now need to look at as like questionable. Like, it may have met the immediate incentive, but did it meet the standards of the community in the long term? And those considerations are never had at a corporate level. We don't need to think about that. The incentives are there, and we adapt to them, and then we either profit or we don't. And the corporation sees it exactly the same. They don't really need to look at the long-term ramifications of it. They just need to understand that their profits increase, that they maintain a viable industry. And then that can reflect on evolution. How does evolution follow a similar standard? You know, it's completely, it's in fact free of any morality at all and ethics. And anything that we try to impose upon it is simply a distortion of that reality. It's not really there. It's a delusion to some degree. I thought it was an interesting parallel. I'm always open and responsive to anything that anyone has, so, you know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm full of shit, maybe there's something interesting behind all this. Let me know your thoughts, message me, leave a comment, whatever you want. Don't interact at all, that's fine too, take away what you wanted. All good. Let me know what you think. See you later.